There is $300 billion sitting in a vault right now, frozen Russian money, not a single dollar of it American. Europe wants to hand it to Ukraine. And two of the country's top military commanders just sat in front of Congress and couldn't tell a senator why we're still waiting. That silence is the story. Because when the men responsible for America's military readiness can't answer a simple question about ending a war with someone else's money, you have to ask, who is actually making these decisions? And more importantly, who are they making them for?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Kennedy.
Forgive me, Mr. Chairman, for interrupting. And I say this with respect for you and these three gentlemen. But as you know, we've got a very important meeting at 11 o'clock. We're going to have to leave. I would respectfully ask if we could limit the opening remarks so we could get to ask a few questions.
Senator Kennedy, Senator Coons has been perfectly all right with taking two on our side first, and then they get two. So we'll be able to get to both of you.
I know, but my point is we're going to start at 11 o'clock. I've got to be there, and these gentlemen have some wonderful prepared statements, but I can read faster than they can talk. And I was hoping if they could give us the Cliff's Notes version, we might have enough time to ask a question.
Or go ahead and ask the question.
Do you mind?
No.
Do you mind, gentlemen?
Sir, not at all.
All right. I'll try to be brief. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here. We need more ships. We're going to give you money to build more ships. You need to get those ships built. You need to build as many of them as you can in Louisiana, but let's get them built. General, is Russia our friend?
Sir, they're not.
Between Ukraine and Russia, who do we want to win that war?
Well, we prefer there not be a war, but obviously.
Well, but there is. Who do we want to win?
Obviously, we want Ukraine to stand independently and not be consumed by Russia.
Okay. Now, when Putin went into Ukraine, he thought he was going to roll in and take it over in 2 days like thunder on a summer night, didn't he?
I believe he did.
But the Ukrainian people have fought back, haven't they?
Yes, sir. They have fought back.
And they now have some of the most sophisticated drone technology in the history of the world, don't they?
Sir, they do. They're doing very well with drones.
And they're giving, with the limited resources they have, they're giving Russia a curb stomping, aren't they?
I would say they are.
In fact, they have knocked out, with their limited resources, 40% of Russia's export ability of their oil. They, since January, using their drones and limited cruise missiles, they have hit oil and gas facilities within Russia over 100 times. Not on the border, within Russia, right?
Yes, sir.
And Putin was so scared, he almost had to cancel their military parade. Didn't he?
Well, I'm not sure of that, sir, but I will take your word for that, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, how much money? Now, let me just lead you. The world has $300 billion of frozen Russian assets in escrow, don't we?
I don't know, sir.
I do. It's $300 billion. And 2/3 of that, about $225 billion, is sitting in Europe, isn't it?
Again, sir, I'm not sure of that.
Well, I am. And I'm surprised, no disrespect, that you don't know. And Europe has asked our permission to take that $200 to $225 billion. Well, I mean, strike that. That $225 billion, humor me, that's sitting there frozen. Not a single penny is American taxpayer money, is it?
I don't believe it is.
No. It all belongs to Russia, doesn't it?
I believe that is correct.
And the EU has asked our permission to take that money and give it to Ukraine so they can knock Russia in the next week and let's get this war over. That's a good idea, don't you think?
Well, I think anything that can be done to stop that war is a good idea, sir.
Would you support giving that 225 billion, no taxpayer money in America, to Ukraine?
Well, again, sir, that's outside my purview as a service chief.
Okay. Admiral, let me ask you a question. Would it be fair to say, based on his public and notorious comments, both before, during, and after the summit between President Xi and President Trump, that President Xi, how can I put this? He's nervous as a pregnant nun about what we're going to do on Taiwan, isn't he?
Sir, I do think he is concerned about our capability against any invasion of Taiwan.
I mean, talk about telegraphing your insecurities. I mean, he talked about it right out of the chute. He's practically sending us a television ad saying, I'm very worried about Taiwan. Now, we don't want a war with China, do we?
Absolutely not.
No. We want stability, though, with China, don't we?
Yes, sir.
And China doesn't recognize, President Xi doesn't recognize charity, does he?
I can't speak to that, but I would say probably not.
Well, he appreciates strength, doesn't he?
I would say so, yes.
If you're in a bar fight with President Xi and you start quoting Socrates like we did under President Biden, you're going to get your rear end whipped, aren't you?
That's probably not a good course of action.
Yes. Okay, so why don't we go ahead? Don't you think it'd be a good idea for us to gain leverage to make weapons sales to Taiwan right now?
Sir, again, these things are very complex and a full calculus of all the levers of power that are being negotiated and worked. So generally...
I'm sorry, what more do we have to know, Admiral? President Xi has telegraphed his anxiety, his insecurity, now that he knows that America has learned how to fight. We want leverage. We want stability, not a hot war. We want leverage. What's his insecurity? Taiwan. Why don't we just go ahead and sell the weapons to Taiwan that Taiwan wants? The president can call President Xi and say, hey, President Xi, don't take it personally. Don't get excited. Don't get your bowels in an uproar. But I'm selling these weapons. Why wouldn't we do that?
We definitely want Taiwan to be as strong as they can be, sir.
They'd be stronger with those weapons, though, wouldn't they?
Yes, sir.
Don't you think we ought to sell them?
Sir, I'm not going to get in front of the administration's overall calculus on that. That's just not I'm not going to make a statement on that as a service chief.
Okay.
But the capabilities that we're talking about would make them more effective.
I'm sorry to go over. I'm sorry. I just wanted to get my points in. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I've got to go, gentlemen. I'm really sorry. And I don't mean any disrespect by being so direct. But we're down to it. We're down to it.
What you just watched wasn't a senator losing his patience. It was a senator exposing a gap between what America's top military commanders know needs to happen and what the political machine above them is willing to authorize. And that gap has a price tag. $300 billion to be exact. Kennedy walked in with a timer running, no appetite for ceremony, and went straight to Ukraine, because that's where Kennedy built his case, and the facts he extracted were more damning than any accusation. He walked the general through the numbers one by one, like a prosecutor laying exhibits on a table. Ukraine has knocked out 40% of Russia's oil export capacity. Ukraine has struck energy infrastructure inside Russia, not near the border, inside Russia, more than 100 times since January, with drones, with limited resources, against a nuclear-armed adversary that once thought it would take the country in 2 days. The general confirmed every single one of those facts. And then Kennedy asked the question that should have had a simple answer. There is $300 billion in frozen Russian sovereign assets sitting in European escrow right now. Not a dollar of it belongs to American taxpayers. Not a dollar of it came from American wallets. It is Russian money, frozen by the international community as a direct legal consequence of Putin's invasion. Europe has asked for authorization to transfer it to Ukraine. The question Kennedy asked was, why haven't we done it? The general's answer was 4 words. That's outside my purview. Now here's what I need you to understand, because this is where most coverage gets it wrong. The general was not lying. Military service chiefs are not supposed to make sovereign financial and foreign policy decisions. That's the chain of command functioning exactly as the Constitution designed it. But Kennedy's frustration was never aimed at the general. It was aimed at the silence above the general. Because somebody does have purview over that $300 billion. Somebody sits at the level where that decision lives. And that somebody has not made the call. Transferring those funds would not cost the United States a single dollar. It would be the international community using Russia's own frozen wealth to hold Russia accountable for an invasion Russia chose to launch. That's the entire logic behind international sanctions. You freeze assets, and you use that leverage. And yet in Washington, the conversation circles around this idea like it's made of radioactive material. Ask yourself, why? Because when an action costs nothing, risks little, and helps an ally that is actively winning a war with limited resources, and the decision still doesn't get made, that tells you something. It tells you the hesitation isn't about logistics. Now Kennedy shifted to China, and this is where the hearing became a different kind of lesson. He asked the admiral whether President Xi Jinping is genuinely nervous about American capability regarding Taiwan. The admiral said yes. Kennedy's follow-up was surgical. If Xi has already telegraphed his anxiety, if he raised Taiwan himself at the summit, unprompted, like a poker player announcing which cards make him sweat, why aren't we pressing that advantage right now? Why aren't we selling Taiwan the weapons Taiwan has asked for, while Xi is off balance? The admiral acknowledged those weapons would make Taiwan more effective. He confirmed Taiwan's defensive capability would increase. And then he said he wasn't going to get in front of the administration's calculus on that. Deterrence works on a simple principle. An aggressor calculates the cost of an action before taking it. Taiwan's military strength is not just Taiwan's problem. Every weapon system Taiwan receives sends a signal to Beijing about how long an invasion would take, how much it would cost, and how much international resistance would follow. That signal is the deterrent. And right now, while Xi is anxious, while he has shown his hand, the signal is being held back. Kennedy's argument was simple. You don't wait for an adversary to regain confidence before acting. You move when the window is open. Service chiefs advise, they don't decide. And when the decision hasn't been made at the top, they don't get ahead of it. But here is the problem with a system that works as designed when the design has a gap at the top. The absence of a decision is itself a decision. Choosing not to sell those weapons is a choice. Choosing not to release that $300 billion is a choice. Choosing to let a strategic window close while the clock runs is a choice. Think about who pays when these decisions don't get made. It's a family in Kharkiv whose neighborhood was shelled this week because Ukraine ran low on the ammunition that $300 billion could have funded. It's a defense analyst in Taipei who has been waiting 3 years for a weapon system and keeps being told the calculus is complicated. What Kennedy did in that hearing was deliberate. He used a public forum to build a record. He got 2 of the country's most senior military officers to confirm, on the record, that Ukraine is winning with limited resources. He got them to confirm that Taiwan would be stronger with those weapons. He got them to confirm that Xi is anxious and has shown vulnerability. And then he let the silence that followed speak for itself. Because when a senator asks why we aren't doing the obvious thing, and the answer from the most informed people in the room is essentially, ask someone above us, the next question is unavoidable. Above whom exactly? And what are they waiting for? That question has no answer in this transcript. But the gap it points to, between what military commanders understand needs to happen and what political leadership is willing to authorize, is the gap where wars get longer. It's where allies get weakened. It's where adversaries grow confident again. Institutions don't fail loudly. They fail in the quiet spaces between decisions that never get made and questions that never get answered. Kennedy's frustration was loud and deliberately colorful. But what he was pointing at was something much quieter. The weapons exist. The money exists. The strategic window is open. What is missing is not capability, not resources, and not legal authority. What is missing is will. And until someone above the generals and the admirals decides to use it, that silence is the most important thing happening in American foreign policy right now.